If you're looking for a very fun, a very unique DPS that can not only carry you, but to look and feel elegant while doing so, then I think Nilou is gonna be for you. In a meta that's dominated by hypercarry DPSs, Nilou kind of exists in her own world that's surrounded by her unique kit of bloom. And as time has gone on, she still continues to be not only one of the funnest DPSs in the game, but still managed to hold her own in the Abyss and throughout the other content. First and foremost, I just want to talk about playing Nilou. To me, she is the only character in the game that when you use her, she feels entirely different. She's a dancer, and this plays a huge part in how she feels. When you use her skill and you're dancing throughout the battlefield while hitting enemies, it feels so elegant, so stylish, and it's just really fun. Especially when you get that final slash attack with Nilou and just watch as her moves sync up with the attack. It's incredible, and that alone I feel like is worth pulling for if you like her. But Nilou does get results. Her ability to create special blooms that have many benefits to them allow for a very unique playstyle that makes her really stand out as a unit. If you decide to pull her, just note that while there are many stronger DPSs out there, Nilou is able to clear the Abyss just fine. Don't be intimidated by the other DPSs or feel like she can't compete. She's a niche unit that has her own strengths and weaknesses. But the way Nilou creates blooms, the way her attacks look and feel, her animations. Now, I love Arlecchino. I love how cracked Neuvillette is, but I love the uniqueness that Nilou brings to the table. I really do. She's a unit that's not just spam one attack and kill all the enemies, or make sure that you're doing your combos correctly. She's a dancer, and everything else is literally centered around that. She also doesn't feel stiff. When she's using her skill or her enhanced normal attacks, it feels like I'm not even playing Genshin anymore. There's so much movement and life in the way she plays that it's just so different and it's so great. Nilou also has a lot of different options when it comes to teammates. She's low investment for high reward, and it's so beautiful. Remember, as long as you can clear the content, that's what matters, and she's able to clear it perfectly fine. Okay, I'm done glazing. I just don't think that she gets enough credit. Nilou is pretty straightforward though. Her skill allows you to dance around the battlefield in two ways. If you tap it 3 times, you gain this hydro aura around you that will follow your active character. But if you use your skill and do your basic attacks, you will get an enhanced version of her normals, dealing hydro damage. And she'll do these special hydro slashes that feel absolutely amazing. However though, Nilou typically wants to be off field, thus tapping your skill 3 times. There is another combo where if you skill, followed up by 2 basic attacks and skill again, you can achieve the ring. For simplicity, just tap the skill 3 times. Nilou's ult will do AoE hydro damage, putting a debuff on the enemy, and after a few seconds will cause them to take damage. All of her talents scale off of HP, so that's really nice. Now as we move into Nilou's talents, I will simplify them just for the sake of time. Her A1 passive does a lot. First off, it wants her to have a full team of only Hydro and Dendro units. And the combination works: 1 Hydro, 3 Dendro, 3 Hydro, 1 Dendro, or just 2 and 2. Now when Nilou completes her dance via her skill, her team will get a 100 EM buff when they are hit by Dendro attacks, which will come in handy later. As for the second part of her passive, instead of creating normal bloom cores, she will create her own special bloom cores that will explode sooner and have a larger AoE. Do note that these cores will damage you, causing you to take Dendro damage and you getting that 100 EM buff. To summarize, she only wants a team of Hydro and Dendro units. She creates her own special cores and gives the team a 100 EM buff. Her second passive is literally just the more HP she has, the more damage her cores would do. And her third passive is just the White Jade Lotus. It may seem like a lot, but you just spam your skill until you get the ring and swap to your Dendro units. Do note that it is incredibly important to level her up to 90, as that is a major factor on how much damage her blooms will do. And you really don't need to level up your talents as they don't affect the bloom damage, just how much the dance and the ult will do. Now as for building Nilou, she is super easy due to her talent passives. You just want to go straight up HP, meaning her best relic sets are the ones that give you HP percent. So 2-piece is her best option, the tenacity of the Miln and the glowing set being those options. While your substats you should prioritize HP, EM and ER are both perfectly acceptable as long as you are reaching around 65 to 75k HP. As for weapons though, that is where she kind of falters. Outside of her obvious signature weapon, we have the Dockhand Assistant, which is a great 4-star option, but it is a limited weapon. Favonius and Sacrificial can help with ER needs if you want to, but you don't need to burst with her every rotation. Really, most of her carrying is from her artifacts and gaining HP, so you can focus your time there. Now, one of Nilou's other strengths are her teams. Due to her first Ascension passive, she only wants a team of Hydro and Dendro units. Typically, you want to run a dual Hydro and a dual Dendro team for the resonance bonuses as they are helpful, but triple Hydro can work as well. Now, she has many free-to-play teams. Nilou really wants teammates that apply a lot of Dendro and Hydro. A notable 4-star team is Nilou, Dendro Traveler, Holly, and Barbara, as you really want to run a healer due to the blooms being able to damage your character. Even with their team restrictions, there are still plenty of flexible units like Kokomi and Yaya for heals and off-field application of their respective elements, Zencho and Yurlan for offensive utility and hydro application, Kaveh due to him being a bloom driver, or Baiju for his defensive utility. Now there is a really important factor that I want to talk about in regards to Nilou, and that's Nahida. It should be no surprise that Nahida is a phenomenal unit for Nilou, being able to provide so much off-field Dendro application and grant your team insane buffs. And while Nilou is typically paired with Nahida, you don't need her. She just makes Nilou teams incredibly comfortable and makes her perform a lot better. You can still clear without Nahida, you'll just notice the difference if you pair the two up. After all, Nahida is the Archon of Dendro, and as records show, the Archons are insanely powerful in their own rights. Just don't feel pressure to pull for Nahida if you don't want her. Just know that if you want to vertically invest in your Nilou, it is better to pick up a Nahida. But you always do want a healer on your team, preferably someone who can apply either Dendro or Hydro. Thus, Kokomi, Yaya, Barbara are all suitable healers. Personally, I have found that Kokomi is the best suited healer for Nilou, but Yaya works insanely good as well. Even with the recent Fontaine additions, the Farina and Seedrine core works really good. Farina being the incredible buffer that she is, and Seedrine being tailored to work with Farina as her healer. But hey, there's always Barbara if you don't have a healer. A few notes though when playing Nilou is that while you always want your Hydro ring to be up, it does have 4 seconds of downtime. So make sure that you still have someone who's applying Hydro during this period, and make sure that your Dendro characters do have a good amount of EM, as they will be the ones triggering the blooms. As for Nilou's Constellations, they primarily focus on her being an on-field DPS, so you get buffs there, but for off-field, it's not really that helpful. C1 gives you 100% uptime on her E, which is nice, but it's not needed. C2 is probably the best stopping point, in which Hydro and Dendro res for enemies is decreased, but once again, this isn't needed. And I personally think that if you do want to vertically invest in your Nilou, you should pick up a Nahida, either her C1 or C2, in which you will see a difference in strength, as Nahida's Constellations, especially her first 2, are pretty insane. Overall though, I just really like Nilou. She's so fun. She feels amazing. I cannot stress that enough. Nilou feels absolutely amazing just dancing across the battlefield and just doing all of this damage while everything is just blowing up around you and your team. Her design is beautiful. Her character is beautiful. And really, Nilou is in her own little corner, and I think that's perfectly fine for her. Who knows with Natlan coming up if she'll see any notable changes with new teammates or new synergies? We'll just have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you win your 50-50, and I'll see y'all in the next one.